Hey everybody, welcome to my new video. This time I want to go all the way back to the time when I started this channel, and this should be pretty quick scene to make and pretty easy to follow. So let's jump right into it. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see more content like this in the future, hit that subscribe button and that little bell button next to it so you get notified when I release something new. Let's jump right into Blender, and we can start by adding a plane. So Shift A, add a plane, tab right into it, press S to scale, let's enter number 4, and right now we can press E to extrude this. So this will be a base for our terrain, and right now I want to subdivide the top so we have some detail. Detail there, so just right click and click subdivide several times. I think something like 4 subdivisions will be okay. And don't worry about these endgons right here, we won't be distorting this in any way. We are not going to animate it, so this will remain flat, so I really don't mind. There are endgons there, we don't need any extra geometry. Right now I want to lower the part where the river will be actually, so first of all let's select this face right here and press H to hide that. Let me get back. First of all we need to change to the vertex select right here, or press 1 and press H to hide that. So this way these vertices won't get modified in any way or moved, so we can continue working like this without affecting those. And right now we can just select area like this where the river will be, and we can press G and Z and move it down a little bit. Now if you tab out, you can see we made a cutout because this is an endgon, so we just move those vertices. And right now we can go back and maybe add some loops here, so that's Ctrl R. Maybe you can do more if you like and create some loops. And right now we can randomize the terrain a little bit, so tap right back in. And additionally you might want to hide these side vertices as well so they don't get moved. So let's just alt click here, alt shift click here, alt shift click here and here, and we can hide them right now. And let's select one of these vertices in the riverbed and let's enable proportional editing. Here we can leave it at smooth. Let's press G, then X and move it like this, just to give this a little bit of variation. Something like this. And you might want to move it up and down as well, so let's just do that. And we can move some of these up. And for the movement on the Z-axis you can enable this, but let's hide this one again, so we get a nice profile from the side, something like that. So let's just click the vertices and move them around a little bit so you get some nice terrain variation like that. And right now I want to randomize this a little bit, so again I want to select these edges, switch to vertices, let's hide those. And let's switch this fall off to random. Right now we can just click the vertex, press G, then Z. Let's enlarge this and move it. Okay, so we get a little bit of a randomness there, and it doesn't look also uniform. So I think this will do, probably. Hey there, sorry for interrupting, but I have a little announcement to make. My course on 3D illustration is ready now, it's finally complete, it's out there, it's out of early access. And if you feel like you're struggling a little bit with this format of the video and you want more detailed explanations and in-depth theory behind the things I'm doing, and basically much more slower step-by-step process on this illustration, you can go and check out that course. There are a bunch of illustrations there included. There are 5 of them basically, so you get immediately 5 different ways how to approach your illustration work. And of course you can use the discount code you can see in the description of this video, and there's some bonus content there. You get access to Slack group where I connect with the students every day if they get stuck or something like that. So you get all the project files and some sweet asset packs as well. So there should be a link in the corner of the window or link in the description. Go check it out, let me know what you think. We can now create a river, so that'll be pretty easy to do. We'll just create a new plane there. So let's first turn off proportional editing so it doesn't get messed up later, and press Shift A. But first let's tab out, press Shift A, add a new plane, and right here we can go to the top view by pressing 7 on the numpad, tab in, hold Z, switch to the wireframe, S, then Y, and scale it out. Don't go all the way to the edges. We want some offset there, and right now just press S, X, and scale this out. I think that'll be enough. We can now look from the front, so press 1 on the numpad, press G, Z, and move this up, and we can press E to extrude the water like this. Okay, right now if we go to the solid view by holding Z, I think this will do nicely. And right now I want to subdivide the top face so we can apply some modifier to it later. But I don't want to just right click and subdivide it because that will create rectangular faces there. I want to split it in half first, but I don't want to split the whole geometry, so let's just press slash to go to the local view. And right now we can go to the edge select by pressing 2, select the edge, the second one, and let's click subdivide. So this way we can split it in half, and right now we can select these 2 faces and let's click subdivide a few times. So it totally depends on how detailed you want the water to be, so you can maybe subdivide it even more. Maybe we can do it like that. Okay, so let's tab out, let's exit local view by pressing slash. Right now we can go to the modifiers, let's add a modifier and a displace modifier. Here it is. But first, as you can see, the displace modifier is applied to whole object. So let's tab right back in, go to the object data, and let's find the vertex groups, create a new group, and let's assign. So we have these faces assigned to a vertex group, and right now we can go back to the modifiers, tab out, and we can select only the vertex group we applied. And right now we can create a new texture, go to the editing, and let's select the cloud texture right here. So this is already something that can be used as a water level. Right now we just need to modify the texture properties, so whether you want the water to be more distorted or less, totally up to you. And if you go back to the modifier settings, you can adjust the strength like that. And if you hold shift, you can fine-tune the setting. I will leave it like this and maybe come back to it later. I think this works just fine. The second thing we'll need is some rock, so let's just create a new cube, Shift A, cube, and let's press slash again to go to the local view. Right now we can go into the edit mode, let's click subdivide, and we can click the smooth tool here, smooth it out a little bit. And right now maybe press S, Z, scale this, go to the vertex select, and select these vertices, and by applying bevels, so Ctrl B, then V, or Ctrl Shift B, whatever works for you, you can bevel these vertices and create some nice slopes, some nice surfaces. Yeah, I think this works fine as some basic rock. Maybe you can enable proportional editing with smooth fall off and move some things around. If you have loop tools add-on enabled, you can just select some faces that you distorted and right click loop tools and flatten. Or I have it in my quick menu under Q, so I can just select and flatten these faces. Okay, I think it works fine. We can now exit the local view and let's enable snapping. So Shift Tab and switch this to face, align rotation and project individual elements, and we can now move this around, scale it, resize it, rotate it, and let's press Alt D to duplicate. Let's turn off the snapping and we can find some nice new angles so we get some variation. Maybe you can move some rocks into the water as well, so they are visible, peeking out of there. Yeah, maybe something like this. So basically, we just want some interesting terrain here, and right now we can continue with some trees. So let's press Shift A and add a circle. Right now we can click this here and modify the vertices to 6. I want to have it only 6 sides, and right now we can press slash to isolate this. Let's turn off proportional editing. Right now we can scale this down, press F to fill, go to the front view, let's extrude that a little bit. Now let's press E, then click, let's press S to extrude, E again, and extrude the height of the tree, and let's scale this down. But don't merge this yet, leave it open so we can do loop cuts easily. So let's stay in the front view, press Ctrl R and do some cuts like that. And right now we can go to the edge select, alt click these edges, and let's press B to bevel. So we have some more loop cuts, and we can now select these. So I'm always alt clicking the loop cuts and scale them away, but only on a X and Y plane. So Shift Z and move them out. Let's scale these inside, and let's scale the bottom one like that. Okay, and right now we can add some more loops and scale those so we have some variation there. And of course you can select these loops and rotate on the Z, so R and Z, rotate them a little bit. Then if you want, you can go to the vertex select, enable proportional editing with random offset, and make some small adjustments here and there. Okay, and finally you can leave it like this, or you can select these top vertices, press Alt M and merge at center, and this is your tree. Basically we can add one more loop cut here, scale it down, but let's turn off proportional editing first, so let's press O, scale it down, scale this one as well, and let's scale this out like that. And you can select it all and adjust the thickness how you want, but basically this is some basic tree that we can use here. And let's move this down a little bit so we can better place it on the terrain. Let's tab out, press slash to exit local view, and right now we can enable snapping again and move this somewhere here, and we can scale this down, so, and adjust the rotation. Okay, something like this. And I had a tree stump going across the river before, so let's do that right now. First of all, let's press Shift A, add a cylinder. Right now I want to modify the sides to 8. Let's bring it up, G and Z, R and Y, 90 degrees. Right now we can scale this and scale on the X so it covers the river. Okay, we can move it in place, maybe rotate. Be careful to rotate in the object mode. And right now we can go back into the edit mode, go to the face select these two faces by holding Shift, press X and delete these faces. So we have only so we don't have any caps there. And right now I want to subdivide this 3 loops. You can adjust that with the mouse wheel, and let's scale these down, scale them on the local Y axis or Z. And we can now separately select these loops and move them a little bit. Maybe rotate these rings. So you get some nice stylized shape of a tree stump. And if you want, you can go even further and randomize things a little bit, but I don't want to do that. I think this is enough, so let's do some more loops like this. And we can select these 4 faces, and with use of loop tools we can create a circle there. Let's rotate this a little bit back, scale it up and extrude, scale, extrude. So we have something that looks like a branch. And right now we can delete these faces, so X faces, and we can scale this out, maybe add some more loop here. And you can always move things about a little bit to create some more organic shape. Okay, and one last detail, we can rip some vertices apart, so let's Control R for a loop cut here, and we can go into vertex select and press V to split this, and let's move it like that. So we have some interesting thing going on here, and we can do the same here. So let's do a loop cut, V to split, and maybe here as well. Like that. And now the final part, we can make this solid, and there's a great modifier for that, so go to the modifiers and add solidify modifier, and adjust the thickness like that. And here's your simple low poly model. Right now we can move this down a little bit, rotate this and place it. Okay, right now I want to better see how this will look in isometric, so press F5 to switch to orthographic projection. I think we can make this larger a little bit. Okay, like this. Maybe rotate it even more, move on the y-axis. Okay, so I want to add another object here, so shift right click to move the cursor, and I want to be another tree stump. So let's just press shift A, add a circle, and we can do like 8 sides. They'll be fine. Tab in. Right now we can make this smaller. Press E then Z to extrude. We can scale this down. Let me switch to the medium point. Let's scale this down, move up a little bit. Let's do one loop cut right here, so Ctrl R, do a loop cut. Let's move this out a little bit, so scale. And right now we can just select some of these and press Alt E, extrude along normals. And don't worry about the angle. And right now we can press G, then Z, and move this down. Let's switch to the individual, origins right here and scale this down. So we have something like this. Right now we can go to the front view, switch to the wireframe, go to the vertex select, scale, press Z and 0 to align this, and maybe we can scale this out a little bit. So that'll be our basic shape for a tree stump. Maybe we can go local and delete these faces, we don't need them, so delete those and add another loop cut, scale this, maybe scale this out a little bit. And you can of course move things around a little bit if you want to give it some better shape. You can rotate this ring some more, move it around. Okay, let's exit the local view, and right now the view from the camera will be like this, so I want to give it some interest, so we can rip the region right here, so press V and separate the vertex. And right now we can select all, bring it down a little bit, tab out and move it in place. Find some better position. Okay, let's check it from the orthographic projection if it all looks okay. Looks fine to me. I want to move this a little bit to the side. Okay. And right now, let's just give it some thickness. So go to the modifiers and add the solidify modifier. We can go negative and give it some thickness like this. Okay, and one more thing, I want to have a mushroom here, and there'll be like a really dominant object with a red color. So let's make it here in the foreground. So shift right click to move the cursor there, shift A, and we can start with another circle, but let's switch to the 12 vertices, tab in, scale down. We can fill this, press F and E to extrude. So we're basically making cylinder, but the pivot point is there, or rather the origin point is there at the bottom. Right now we can press E, confirm, scale this out and extrude. And if you press Ctrl B, you can bevel this and increase the number of segments with the mouse wheel, like that. Okay, and add some loop cuts over here. And we can now select this ring, make it larger, and let's select this loop, move it up a little bit. So that'll be our basic shape for mushroom, and you can of course modify this, and I find it good to enable proportional editing and define the shape a little bit more organically. So enable proportional editing, press G and move this around a little bit so it doesn't look so uniform. Okay, something like that. Maybe we can go here and make these a little bit smaller. Turn off proportional editing. Okay, and move this down. Okay, so I think this will serve nicely as some kind of mushroom. We can maybe rotate it in place a little bit. And right now I want it to have some dots on it, so they'll be very easy to do. Just shift right click here, shift A, add a circle. We can go 6 sides, tab into the edit mode, press F to fill, scale it down, and now let's press E to extrude. And we can select the bottom ring by holding Alt and drag this down a little bit. So we go into the geometry, and right now let's enable snapping again, so shift tab and move this around. And here you can just Alt D and duplicate some dots around, how many you want. You can modify the sizes, the rotation, whatever you want basically. But we won't be parenting them to this object or joining it just yet. We'll leave that for later. And one last thing regarding the modeling will be to create some grass. So shift right click here and let's add the plane. Press S, scale it down in the edit mode, press E, extrude. Let's add one cut right here, so Ctrl R, select these top vertices, Alt M and merge at center. Right now we can go X-ray, scale this down and modify the shape a little bit, maybe scale this. Okay, and right now I will just Shift D to duplicate this and distribute some more grass trains around. So Shift D, duplicate, RZ and grab it around. Shift D, one smaller like this, and we can make it all a little bit smaller and drag it down in the edit mode. So tab out and this will be our grass, and just enable snapping again and distribute it around the scene a little bit. So find some good places. Most of the time near the rocks is a good place. Rotate it a little bit. Something like this. And yeah, maybe here, enable snapping again. So we're basically just trying to populate the scene some more. Double R for a trackball rotation. Scale it a little bit and move it around the place. So I think that will work nicely for this purpose. So let's just finish the modeling and move to shading and some lighting. Let's reset the cursor to the world origin, so Shift S and cursor to world origin, add a plane, scale it up, it'll be our background, and right now we can use the ISOCAM plugin. You can find it right here. If you don't have it installed yet, look up in the description, you will find the link for the Python script. You will just load it up in the preferences for add-ons and activate it. And right now we can just add the game ISOCAM and move this up a little bit, and then select the background and move it up too. Okay, so this will be our default scene, and right now we can make some layout adjustments so we get some better results. Okay, I think this will work fine. Okay, and we can switch to the material preview and let's start creating some materials. So go to the material tab, add new for the ground, let's call it ground, and I want some kind of fresh green material for that, and we can use the same material for the tree, but duplicate it here, rename to tree, and just reduce the lightness on that a little bit. Right now we can select the stump, create a wood material, like that. Okay, the same here. And for the tree, so let's go into the edit mode. We should have this selected. If not, just select this ring and press Ctrl+ to expand. And let's add another slot here and select wood, click assign. For the rocks, let's create the rocks material, something yellowish, maybe a little bit darker, like that. And for the mushroom, we can do something similar. Okay, and for the top part, we can just select the top face, and if you modified it with proportional editing, you can just flatten it using loop tools and press Ctrl+ to expand the selection. Add a new slot, let's create the red material, I will just call it red, and switch to some nice red color. Let's click assign. And for the dots, I want them to shine in the dark. I want this to be a night scene, so let's select one of those and let's create a new material. Let's call it light dot or something. Let's leave color like this, or first let's switch to the emission. Let's leave the color, and maybe we can set the strength to 2, something very decent. And we can give the same material to the grass, but duplicate this and change the color to something like this, maybe something blue with more strength. Okay, and I will create the background material, and I want it to be a little bit darker, so somewhere here in the middle. We can leave it gray. And for the water, we'll create a water material, and let's switch the IOR to 1.5 3. Let's give it a 0.9 transmission. Don't worry about the transmission in Eevee, we won't be setting it up right now. And let's give it some blue color, like this, and some lower roughness, so we get those reflections, maybe something like 0.1. Okay, and we can now switch to scene lights and scene world here, so we better see our lighting. There's not much going on right here. We can enhance the Eevee preview by enabling ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections a little bit. And one thing I want to do here is for the river to really glow in the dark. So we can just hide it for now. And let's select the ground, go into the edit mode. And if you don't have these selected, just hold Alt, Shift, and click the loops like that, so you can select the whole riverbed. And right now going to the material view, create a new slot, new material, let's call it light, click assign. And right now we can switch these to emission again, give it something like 10. I want this to be really shiny, and some blue violet tone like that, so it really has that like magical forest feeling or something. Okay, and right now we can unhide the water. Don't worry if it occludes the light, it won't be an issue with cycles. So let's go back to the camera view by pressing 0. Right now we can add some lights, so let's press Shift A, choose light, and let's select sunlight. Let's press G, then Z, and move it up. And right now we can switch the 3D cursor pivot point and rotate it a little bit, so we get some nice side light with some nice shadows. And we can change the color here too, and lower the strength. I want this to be some kind of a really soft moonlight or something, so you can see the reflections here. And right now we can go to the world settings and start changing the whole ambience of the scene like this and make it darker. And right now you can see how this all is starting to blend together when you modify the world light and create some ambience. This is starting to look much better, but still it's a little bit flat, so I want to introduce more gradients there. And one thing how to do that is to create some local point lights. So Shift right click here and create a point light. Let's bring it up. Let's go back to the camera view. So I want to hide it a little bit back behind the tree, so it creates like a nice rim light there. And let's ramp this up to like 150 and give it some blue color. So it kind of complements the moonshine from the side there, but it creates this nice grading, this nice gradients. And we can duplicate this, move this here above the scene, and complement that blue lighting with some warmer tone like this, but make it a little bit weaker, maybe 75, and play around with this to create this nice reflection and really bring out more that red color from the mushroom. So that should be pretty nice. Okay, and we can now preview this in cycles. So let's switch to cycles. If you have the support, don't forget to switch to the GPU. So let's go to the render view, and this is starting to look really nice. So maybe we can play with the background a little bit, with the intensity of the light, of the glow. something like 20 maybe. And maybe this is too much of a blue color, so let's bring this down a little bit towards more of a blue color. I want to modify this point light, maybe make it a little bit stronger to 200, and this one too. Okay, and maybe we can make this less green, because I think the colors were a little bit conflicting there. They were clashing a little bit. So I feel like this could work nicely. And maybe we can go into the color management and increase the exposure and select the medium high contrast. And maybe make the ambience a little bit darker even. Like that. Okay, and of course you can play with lighting for a long time, so find something that best works for you, something that you're satisfied with. You don't have to follow these settings precisely. So yeah, this is just to hit some ballpark idea of lighting. So let's just finish with some additional details. First of all, I want to make this mushroom movable, but right now these dots are separate objects. So let's just select them all by holding Shift. And there are many ways how you can select them. Maybe we can drag around those, and then by holding Control you subtract the other objects from the selection, and then just Shift click the mushroom and press Ctrl J to join. And I waited until the material is there, so they're right now joined into one object, and we don't have to select them here as an island and assign material. So that's handy. And right now we can make some final adjustments with the size and position. And I want to introduce some more of those here, so we have some nice variation. We can enable snap and move it around. A smaller one here. So you get the idea. Just be creative with your layout, create some variation. Something like this could work. Okay, and one last thing, I want to do a little glowing eyes from inside that stump. So let's Shift right click for the cursor, Shift A, mesh, circle. Right now let's do 12 sides, go into the edit mode, scale it down, press F to fill. And right now we can look from the top, press G then X, move it to the side a little bit. Let's go to modifiers, add the mirror modifier. And that's basically it. So right now we can just go to the material tab, create new, let's call it eyes, and we can switch to emission shader and some really strong glow, like a really strong blue glow. Then we can just rotate those and move them inside the stump, so they're facing towards the camera, maybe a little bit more inside. And here you can see there's nothing there, but in cycles there should be a proper shadow inside. So it will give a nice touch to the whole scene. And right now we can just add some more, maybe here as well, so it has some playfulness to it. And I really felt like there's a boulder missing there. Okay, so this is the scene, that kind of like enchanted fantasy forest something. So I hope you like it. If you're new to the channel and you like this kind of tutorial, hit that subscribe button and that bell button so you get notified when I release something new. And thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.